President Macron of France hosts President Muhammadu Buhari and other visiting heads of state as France-Africa summit begins. Nigeria's inflation falls for the first time in 21 months, and World Remit backs a Central Bank of Nigeria's decision to extend Naira for Dollar scheme. Plus, all extends gains and optimism over U.S.-European reopenings. Transparency is in focus today as Open Government Partnership Week kicks off. This is Business Express on the network service of the NTA, and we are reaching you live from Abuja, the nation's capital. I am Leah Baba Tunde. French President Emmanuel Macron Monday evening hosted a dinner to honor visiting heads of state and government attending the Africa-France summit. State House correspondent Adam Musombo reports that President Muhammadu Buhari was among those accorded a befitting reception on arrival at the French seat of government. Cameras were, however, not allowed into the dinner hall. President Buhari and his host are expected to hold bilateral discussions on areas of common interest on Tuesday before the Africa-France summit commences. Paris is working on a new and fairer way to engage with Africa, especially as it looks to expand its bilateral relationship with Nigeria, the biggest economy on the continent. Adebola Brooklyn Sunday reports that the bilateral relationship between Nigeria and France, especially in the area of security, trade and culture, dates back to the 60s.
In sub-Saharan Africa, records have it that Nigeria is France's top commercial partner, with bilateral trade between the two countries nearing $5 billion in 2019. However, this figure fell to $2.3 billion in 2020 due to the advent of coronavirus pandemic. The bilateral relations have continued, particularly in the sectors of economy and culture, in addition to France's support against terrorism in the Lake Chad region after the Paris summit in May 2014. In 2015, President Muhammadu Buhari made an official visit to France, during which he met with President Hollande on issues related to security and the environment, tagged COP21. The Hollande successor, President Macron, visited Nigeria in July 2018, where he met with President Buhari, with whom he discussed regional issues, the G5 Sahel, and anti-terrorism efforts. It was a kind of homecoming for Emmanuel Macron, as he had his internship in Nigeria's French embassy when he was 23 years old.
It's very emotional to me to come back something like 15 to 17 years later, especially in Abuja, where I spent a few months, and it was in a very different context, and I'm not sure at that time I totally imagined to come back in such a condition.
In Lagos, he visited African Shrine and had series of engagements. During one of his meetings, he launched the African Cultural Season, an event celebrating music and fashion.
It will be for Africa, for African artists, by African artists.
Another area which France and Nigeria's cooperation is extensive is the creative industry, creating a partnership with French Canal Olympia Cinema.
Because we know that Nigeria is a country with a very vibrant, very important culture, and this is especially the case in the film industry.
French-speaking African states like Chad, Cote d'Ivoire, and Niger, who are Nigeria's neighbor, have enabled France to interact freely with other African countries.
It is essential for Nigerians to learn this language, that we have teachers who are well skilled in teaching learners or would-be learners.
The African Finance Summit is expected to put in place financial resources capable of reviving the economy of the continent.
The National Bureau of Statistics says Nigeria's inflation rate reduced by 0.05% in April compared to what obtained in March. The Bureau said while inflation rate stood at 18.17% in the month of March, it reduced to 18.12% in April.
Increased to 18.12% year-on-year in the month of April 2021, and that's 0.05% lower than the rate in March this year. Whereas urban inflation rate increased to 18.68% year-on-year in April 2021 from 18.76% recorded in March 2021, while the rural inflation rate increased by 17.57% in April 2021 from 17.60% in March 2021. The percentage change in the average composite CPI for the 12 months period ending April 2021 after the average of the CPI for the previous 12 months period was 15.04%.
And as Nigeria finalizes plans to establish a public register of beneficial owners before the end of the year, the federal government says it is committed to the implementation of progressive ideas that will ensure sustainable transparency and national development. Secretary to Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, made this position known in a keynote address to mark 2021 Open Government Partnership OGP Week in Abuja. Nekauku reports.
At the London Anti-Corruption Summit in 2016, President Muhammadu Buhari made commitments to implement beneficial ownership transparency principles in Nigeria as part of his efforts to tackle corruption in government systems and institutions. Since then, there has been continuous effort by government to deepen transparency. At the center of this developmental strategy is the quest to establish a public register of beneficial owners in line with its principle of open governance.
With the law backing us and our hands on the plow, we commit to finishing this register by the end of the year.
The Open Government Weeks presents us with an opportunity to take stock of our progress, learn lessons, lay out the road ahead, and recommit ourselves to the work ahead.
Stakeholders say the implementation of the beneficial ownership transparency principles will help curb illicit financial flows and its negative impact.
And one of the most formidable ways for which we are losing money is through misinvoicing that then goes into pockets of commercial interest.
And like with anything in life, resources and staffing are needed to drive the progress and ensure follow-up.
The high-level engagement by government draws participants from the civil society, public and private sectors to work out more acceptable partnerships in line with global best practices.
Now, accomplishing key reforms in the public service for good governance at national and subnational levels took center stage at a pilot workshop for states under the World Bank-assisted State Fiscal Transparency, Accountability and Sustainability Program, SIFTAS. Comfort Amadou reports that the workshop is at the instance of the Public Service Institute of Nigeria and seeks to build the capacity of Nigerian civil servants for efficient service delivery.
Transparency and accountability contributes towards building trust, among citizens, investors, creditors, and even among the tiers of government.
The budget of every state now can be accessed on the internet. You can see the level of spending, the areas of spending, the votes of charge, the balances, and so on.
Almost all the states have now prepared their budget based on the National Chart of Accounts. The SafeTax program has brought about openness in governance.
The states have been trained and have been also encouraged to build and establish institutions that will continue beyond the SafeTax program.
Now, it is the Open Government Partnership OGP Week, and a series of activities have been lined up to streamline thoughts between the federal government, civil society, the private sector, as well as development partners. Now, how far has Nigeria traveled on this road, and what are the hurdles ahead to be conquered? Stanley Achono is the Deputy National Coordinator, Nigeria Open Government Partnership Secretariat. You're welcome to Business Express.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So maybe we'll begin by you giving us the rating, the performance of Nigeria since when we signed up to the OGP, bearing in mind that corruption, transparency, these are issues that have been at the forefront of our national discourse.
It's been a mixed performance. In some areas we have fared very well. In some others, work remains to be done. Areas like, as you reported earlier, our beneficial ownership register, a lot of work has gone into it. We successfully changed the KAMA Act, the Companies and Allied Matters Act, which was last amended in 1990. So the 1990 version of the law was repealed and a new law was reenacted with far-ranging provisions in that law, including the beneficial ownership, which the Secretary to the Government of the Federation spoke about. There is also work that is ongoing with respect to our procurement area. More information is now being made available online on the National Open Contracting Portal about government procurement. There is Open Treasury, run by the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, which publishes all government expenditure above a certain threshold. But there are also areas where we still need to do more work. In our area of anti-corruption, there is progress with recoveries of looted assets, but there are requirements to put certain legislations in place to manage asset recovery. We also have made progress with our Freedom of Information Act. Our civil society partners continue to complain about the level of compliance, especially around proactive disclosures by government agencies. So there are areas where significant progress has been made. There are areas where we recognize that we need to do more work. But the most important lesson is the fact that government remains committed, as re-emphasized by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, remains committed to improving transparency, accountability, engaging, more importantly, our partners, both our local CSOs, our international donor partners and bilateral partners remain engaged in this process. So we're all, sort of partners in progress to continue to deliver on the mandate of the President.
Okay, so the public now, where are they at the center of all this? Where do they fall in?
At the center of OGP, at the heart of the partnership is service delivery, improving service delivery to citizens. We're hopeful that some of the steps that are being taken will deliver improved services to ordinary Nigerians. It will also give them the power to understand, to make better informed decisions around government policies. Because when we talk about accountability, it's not just about the amount of money spent on certain things. It's also about the ideas behind government policies, being accountable for the decisions that government take. They are all part of accountability. It's not always about money. It's about explaining why certain decisions are made in order to engage the citizens and have their buy-in. Sometimes all of government decisions are not usually acceptable to everyone, and the normal reaction from the public is to say no to that. sometimes those decisions are made based on available information that the public is not aware. But being able to explain why decisions are made in such manner, which is one of the reasons we gathered yesterday to explain why government is building a beneficial ownership register, and to show what implication it will have, and also to get the buy-in. So the OGP requires that at every stage of our decision making that we engage the citizens, even if it's just so that they are aware before they react on an informed basis. So service delivery is at the heart of it, but service delivery is not always about money in your pocket. It's about improving processes in which our citizens live in.
Okay, so the subnationals now, where do they fit in?
Oh yeah, so I was happy to see the other reports about the CEFTAS program. It's largely built on OGP, but focused on the state government. And I heard one of the guests we interviewed talking about all of the state governments now publishing their budget. But it's beyond just publishing budget. They are now also publishing a simplified version where every class of citizens can pick up and understand what is in the budget. So if you cannot read the bigger document, there's a simplified version of the budget available for citizens. In certain states, they are publishing in local languages. Jigawa publishes in Hausa, Kano publishes in Hausa language as well. They are building procurement processes. For the first time, more than 24 states in the country, they've put in place procurement laws. Before, contracts at state levels were awarded at the whim of the governor or whoever is in charge of that contracting process. But now there is a law to set up the process, to streamline the process, to make sure that it is transparent, it is open, and it is competitive. The states are also improving their biometric systems to take away ghost workers from the payroll system. They've all implemented Treasury single account. So the effort that started at the federal level in 2016 is now trickling down to the states. Sometimes the impact is not as large as people think it is. Yeah. It seems very minute, but it has larger implications. For the first time, states are no longer making summary budgets, which is what was obtainable at state level. They will make a summary budget: education 10 billion, health 5 billion, but the detail of what that money will be spent on is never disclosed to the citizens. But now, as was said, they're using national chart of account, so they need to specify what school will be built, in what location, what hospital will be built, in what location. So when somebody says, oh, there's an improved budget process, what is that? But the detail then shows how that will directly impact. So it also allows, at state level, we insist that states that are preparing budget must hold consultation with their citizens. Almost every state, using varied formats. In Kaduna, the governor hosts a radio program, dial-in program for citizens to tell him what they want to see in the coming budget. They also do a community charter. Every community send a report to the Ministry of Budget and Planning saying, we want this school built, we want this hospital built. All of it is not always met. In Imo, they hold town hall meeting across all the states. In Jigawa, they hold a community charter. The communities gather together and decide, do we want school built or hospital built, right? These are early stages of these processes, but we're expecting that if this remains sustained and citizens are the ones deciding what is priority to them in the state budget, it will have an impact, because if water is important to my community and water is delivered, life improves. If education is important in my community and school is delivered, life improves. And that we give citizens ownership of government. And that's generally the aim, making governance decision-making process inclusive of ordinary citizens in a way that directly impacts them.
So while we engage the citizens at the very, very lowest arm of government, also the issue of trusts. Mm-hmm. How will this program build a public trust?
Trust in government is not peculiar to Nigeria. People think that it is only in Nigeria where people do not trust our government. It's not peculiar to us generally. I was looking at a survey of U.S. Congress, extremely unpopular. If you think our National Assembly is unpopular, look at the survey of the U.S. Congress. So it's not peculiar to Nigeria, but it does not mean that we should not actively rebuild trust of citizens. But how do you rebuild citizens' trust in government if government is not actively seeking to rebuild trust? Which is why with OGP, several government officials are now being put forward to talk to citizens, because there seems to be this whole breakdown of trust comes from that gap in communication and the inaccessibility of government decision process or government officials thinking that explaining their actions and activities to citizens is beneath them, right? But a different approach is recommended under OGP, which is that for every stage of decision making, even when the citizens disagree with you, the fact that you sit down to explain, it might not change their mind, but it earns you respect, a form of credibility.
Yeah.
And also working with partners that citizens trust also helps, which is why under the OGP process, we engage civil society organizations. There are several of them who, when they say something, citizens trust the things they say over what government says. And I'll give you an example. I have previously I worked at Budget, and every single information we provided with respect to federal government budget comes from federal government. We don't manufacture the numbers, right? The same number is put out by government agencies. Citizens do not trust it. But if Budget puts out that same information, they take it as fact, right? So that collaboration, working with partners such as Budget, helps you communicate the things you are doing. So the partnership is called a partnership for a reason. It's because government and their civil society counterparts and their private sector partners work together to improve these services. And where communication breaks down, there is one person the citizens will trust in that partnership who can help communicate that. So it's extremely important that in the effort to rebuild trust, we find all of the partners who can help us put out some of this information, which is at the heart of OGP. We work very closely with our civil society partners.
Okay, I must sincerely thank you, Stanley. I'm told we don't have much time again for the conversation. Thank you for coming on the program.
You're welcome.
Yes, and Stanley is also he is the Deputy National Coordinator of the Nigeria Open Government Partnership. Business Express continues after this break.
Nersal Microfinance Bank wishes to inform the general public not to give money to anybody disguising as its staff or agent to secure the COVID-19 Targeted Credit Facility or AGS-MEIS loan. However, a training fee is charged by Accredited Entrepreneurship Development Training Institute, EDIs, for the training and business plan for the AGS-MEIS loan. Whenever you are in doubt, please call us at 0901 002 6905. If anyone has collected money to help you get the loan, please lodge a complaint on our whistleblowing portal by sending us an email on whistleblower@nmfb.com.ng. Nersal Microfinance Bank also wishes to inform the general public that the COVID-19 Targeted Credit Facility disbursed by our bank is a loan and beneficiaries must pay back with interest. The COVID-19 Targeted Credit Facility should not be misconstrued as a grant from the government. Call 094-621-730 or visit www.nmfb.com.ng for more information.
Ruth Peters is a content writer who turned to photography after losing her job to the coronavirus pandemic. She sees opportunity in the social media and wants to return to writing. But first, she has to survive COVID-19. Let's hear Ruth.
Surviving COVID-19 series is brought to you in partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria.
Okay, I've started writing since 2018 and photography was just last year. I lost my job and the job I had after during the COVID, and so that was why I had to like relax back to photography, or relax instead of just being idle at home. I was a content writer for a fashion house, and since the COVID it was hard on everybody, so the man had to like tell me to stop until he could get back to his feet. Before then, I had already started taking pictures on my phone and I'll post it on Facebook, and I'm also a feminist activist One of my friends on Facebook, a Canadian lady, she decided to send me a camera, and that was how, since I got a camera, I was out of job, decided to start something with my life. This photography, it's been hard because there are jobs, in fact there are little or no events to cover, and even though you find some people paying will be another issue. It's always one week one issue. I applied for survivor fund, I applied for that CBN loan, and also I applied for Empower.
So has anyone worked?
None. That survivor fund, I heard it was 30,000. I had plans then to at least eat very well for a while.
Take a
because it's not easy, and send home to my mom something, and then use it to the remaining to like go and service my printer. This one also was a gift by a journalist friend, so that's how I've been like managing.
Let's join Bosti Abel for a look at the global market.
Stocks across the globe indicate a more positive tone this Tuesday than on Monday. Asian shares rose, shrugging off worries about an increase in regional coronavirus infections and a subdued session on Wall Street. Japan's Nikkei rose as much as 2% on solid earnings report and bargain hunting, while Hong Kong stocks were up 1.24%. European stocks opened higher on Tuesday, also defying gloomier sentiment seen among global markets at the start of the trading week. Britain's FTSE, it's seen opening 51 points higher at 7,087. Germany's DAX up 80 points and CAC 40 of France up 39 points. Futures contracts tied to the major U.S. stock indices rose in early morning trading on Tuesday as well, after Wall Street kicked off the week with modest losses. Dow futures are showing 145 points jump, while contracts tied to the S&P 500 and Nasdaq 100 futures are both showing positive sentiment. Stocks in Africa also are expected to cancel losses recorded on the first trading day of the week, as all markets wait for Wednesday's release of the minutes from the Federal Reserve's policy meeting last month. With global market update, Bosti Abel.
And that wraps the program for today, and Business Express returns tomorrow at 3 p.m. My name is Leah Katun. Baba Tunde. Be safe out.